This lesson is designed to assist teachers in implementing the digital citizenship lessons in the Nearpod program for the Nearpod, their campus Nearpod program. First of all, if you remember from the previous video, we've already discussed how to add these lessons to your library from the district library. So now I'm in my library. I'm up here, you can see right up here, I'm in my library. Now, if your digital citizenship lessons don't pop up at the top, you can always come over here and type in the search digital citizenship and click on search, and it will bring those digital citizenship lessons to the top of all your lessons. Now, on any lesson in Nearpod, whether it be digital citizenship or another lesson that you have, anytime you roll over the lesson, you will get these options. One of them is for a live lesson and one is for a student-paced lesson. But before you use your digital citizenship lesson, or you implement it, or any lesson again that you have in Nearpod, it is always a good idea to preview the lesson ahead of time so you know what kind of questions are going to be asked of the student and what the students are going to be asked to do. So before you launch your digital citizenship lesson, go ahead and click on preview down in the bottom right corner of the lesson, and it will take you into the preview area. And from here you can walk through the lesson and see what the students are going to be asked to do. Now right here you'll see it'll tell you how many slides. This is a 40 slide lesson. That's a lot, but it goes pretty quickly. And then right here you simply click on the preview button, and it will walk you through each one of the slides that is in the lesson. So you can go through this, find out what the objectives are, and see what the students are going to be asked to do. Now throughout these lessons, there are lots of opportunities for students to participate in the lesson. That's what makes Nearpod such a great program, is that the students are actively involved with their learning. So throughout these, the students are going to be asked short answer questions, polling questions, drawing questions, and multiple choice questions. It is very important when you implement this digital citizenship lesson that you have all of your students answer all of the questions. And the reason for that is the results of these are being put into a report that you will submit to the person who is in charge of the digital citizenship program on your campus. So it's very important that students answer all the questions and make sure they do all the drawings and everything that need to be done so that the report will be complete. Okay, so for instance, in this question, open-ended question, it says Aristotle said the whole is greater than the sum of the parts. What do you think this means? So the student would come in here, I think this means so on, and then they would submit it. So again, very important that you as a teacher go through every one of these slides. They have lots of definitions that you need to discuss with the students, and they would go through the lesson, and you go through the lesson and preview it, again answering all short answer questions, all multiple choice questions. Here's some multiple choice questions. Make sure they answer all these, and there's also a drawing question a little bit later on here. So again, first thing, preview the lesson so you know what the students are going to be asked to do. So once you have previewed the lesson, if you go back to my library, and again, I can always type in digital citizenship, and search, and bring those lessons to the top. Now, once I've done that, once I previewed the lesson, now I'm ready to go and launch the lesson. So again, when you hover over any lesson in Nearpod, you will have the live session or student-paced lesson icons. We want to launch a live lesson. So when you click on live lesson on any of these lessons, it will come up with a code. This one is FQDRU. Now, the students are going to use this code to sign into the lesson. So I'm going to switch over to another browser, and I'm going to use that FQDRU code. And so the students would go to the same website, that go to nearpod.com. So once the students are in the nearpod.com, they're going to go to this area where it says enter code, and they're going to enter that code, which again is FQDRU. FQDRU. So we type in FQDRU, and then the students would hit this little blue arrow on the side, and that would take them into the lesson. They're not going to have their own account or anything like that. That's just going to take them into the first slide of the lesson. And in the first slide, they have to enter their names. Now, it's important because these reports are going to be going to the Nearpod people. It's important that you make sure that you set up a naming protocol where the student uses their full name, not just a nickname. And then under the optional, put in what class they're in. So for instance, I would put in as a student Clay White. And then under optional, I could put in Mr. White's Algebra 1A period 3. Something like that. It has to be pretty detailed so that they know where the report's coming from and so on. And then the students would just click on send, and then they would start the lesson. So going back to your account, once the students have logged in and you're sure they're logged in, then you simply click on, you can close that out, and then this is what your area looks like. Down here in the bottom corner, bottom left corner, you'll see how many students have signed in. Okay, so if you've got 20 students, then you should have 20 students signed in. Okay, so that's down here in this bottom area here is where you can see, and if you click on that, you can see which students have signed in. And if a student has not signed in correctly, then you can always go and remove the student. It'll be in the list there. You can remove them and have them log in again and put the information down correctly. Okay, and then again, you'll see down here how many students you've got. Right up here in this top corner, anytime a student has to log back in for whatever reason, they got kicked out or whatever, you can always click on this little pop-up menu here and it'll bring that code up. So it's always there in the lesson for the students to be able to look at. Okay, so now you can go through, and as you go through the lesson, just like you previewed before, the students on their side, they will see the same images here as you go through. Okay, so they'll pop up here with the same image. Okay, that's the beauty of using Nearpod. Now, once you've gone through the lesson and the students have completed all the questions and done what they're supposed to do, then you want to end the session. Right up here at the top, where it says Nearpod, if you click the drop-down arrow, you'll see End Session. You click on End Session and you click on Yes, and that will close it up, create that report that you're going to submit to the person in charge of your Nearpod. Now, if for some reason you were unable to complete the lesson, let's say you didn't get through all the slides, you can continue the lesson the next day by pausing the lesson. So right back here, if you want to pause the lesson, you want to click this back arrow on the left side, and it will ask you, do you want to leave the lesson? You can resume it later. So if the students were not able to get through the lesson and you want to continue it the next day, then you would click on Yes. Okay, so now what I have done is I have paused the lesson. Okay, so what happens is the next day, if I want to pick up this lesson where I left off, I can go back here to click on Live Session, and it will create another lesson. When you go back to that lesson the next day and you click on Live Lesson, it's going to give you a choice of resuming the lesson, and you'll see the date and time of the lesson, so you'll know what period it is, and you just simply click on here and click on Resume. And what happens is that'll launch the lesson back up again. The students will use the same code that they had before. This is a different one here, but the students will have the same code. They'll go back in, put that code in, and then you just simply resume the lesson. It'll pick up where they left off, and you can continue the lesson. If you need to launch a brand new lesson for another class, you can always come up here and launch New Live Lesson. They will get a completely new code. See, this is a different code, so the next class can come in and start a new lesson. So the key here is that each class you have has to have their own code so that each class has its own report. Okay, and that's how you are going to launch the lesson and finish the lesson and complete the lesson for the report. Again, real quick review. If you finish the lesson and you want to close it up, you click up in session. If you need to pause, you come back here, click the back arrow and pause it, and then pick it up again the next day.